everyone. Welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers, seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
Melissa, welcome back from your, I'd say vacation, but more like adventure.
Adventure's a better word.
So tell me about your adventure.
Well, I've been into fly fishing the last few years, right? My son Mitchell and we've gotten to do some really fun trips together. And
and when you say fly fishing, this isn't like let's stand at the edge of a lake and cast around. This is like hike in
full
through
combat.
The woods, up a stream, over logs, like
rocks,
yeah,
cliffs. Seriously, walking chest deep in raging waters to get to the good spots. Yeah.
So this is like,
it's not for the faint of heart.
Hardcore fishing. This isn't like easy Sunday fishing.
Exactly. So when I signed up for this latest adventure, I was picturing it was in Louisiana in the flats, which is like all the tributaries that go right to the ocean, right? So it's like lots of high grasses, and you're in a skiff, which is a real flat bottomed boat.
Okay.
Where 3 people can be in it. So one is standing at the bow on this flat bow. And a lot of times there's like a little cage around you so you don't fall off. Then someone sits in the middle, and then the guide sits in the back on like a huge tall structure, like a bird nest, like real high up. And he uses a pole to push you around.
To push the boat around.
Yes, exactly. And find the fish. It's sight fishing. So the flats are fairly shallow, and we were fishing what are called reds, and they're great, big, huge fish that are so cool. And I thought, well, all of my trout fishing, like I can do this, It says it's for all levels of.
It's not like
all levels.
Right. It's not like your first day, right? Like we're saying, like the stuff that you and Mitchell have done. It's not like. It's not like the easy mode. You've been on the hard mode of fishing.
Yeah, I thought I had been. Let's just say it this way. So it was like, everyone's going to catch a fish. I went with 7 other women. One was a friend. I didn't know anybody else. And it was guided by a woman named Meredith McCord, who is a world-known fly fishing angler. She holds over 250 records of fish. And she's awesome, huge on social media. And I'd been following her for a long time. So I'm so excited about this trip.
So it sounds like in that environment with a world-class guide and with your experience, you're I'm for sure ready to have a good time.
I am picturing the hero shot with this huge,
you're holding the big trophy
size fish, because everyone will get one. You know, I am. You can tell by how I'm building up this story. But I was so excited. We went to this lodge and we were taken care of. And so what happens is you get up at 6 a.m, you go into the kitchen, you make your sack lunch, whatever you want. There's this whole buffet of things set out. You have a breakfast and you leave the house by 6:30 in the morning, and you don't return until like 5 p.m.
Wow.
And we did that for 4 days, Monday through Thursday.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is going to be, what could go wrong? Well, let me tell you, so much more than I realized. I realized something about myself. You know how I'm always talking about, just be in the flow, Yes, I'm competitive, but I'm getting over that. Well, it turns out that it's still very much lurking in my system.
Like those fish is just under the water.
I can't even explain to you how hard this was for me. First of all, day one. Oh, so because there are 8 women, there are 4 boats, 4 guides, and you trade off who you fish with every day. So I fished with my friend Michelle the first day and didn't catch anything. And I came back and a couple of the other women hadn't caught anything either. So I wasn't really thinking much about it. I was like, oh, okay. Well, first of all, this is much harder than I thought. So fly fishing is, in this particular case, you use a 9-foot long rod. Okay. And so that's pretty long and heavy. It's a little heavy only because of the length. It's a real lightweight rod, but when it's that long, their center of gravity is different. And you have to cast with this fly rod. The only weight that you are using is the weight of the line and the weight of this little fly, this little pretend fluffy thing that's on the end. Okay. And my best casts, because I do more stream fishing and trout fishing, my best casts are maybe 25 feet long. That's not very long. Okay. In order to actually do this kind of fishing, you really needed to be closer to 40 or 50 feet. I didn't really get that.
So you couldn't cast out far enough.
Yes, that's one problem. The other problem was when you're standing on the front end of this skiff, it is windy. We have 25 to 30 mile an hour winds. There was a huge storm coming in. One day we got blown off the water because it was 45 mile an hour winds. Okay. That's really, really windy. So when you're casting this very light stuff into wind and you're already a little challenged with how far you can get it out, it is really challenging. It's really hard. And one of the guides on the second day decided that what I really needed was to be instructed every single move I made.
How did you take
from
that?
7 o'clock in the morning until about 2:30. Every single move I made. Hey, oh, no, you got to bring her. Shut the door. Melissa, shut and open the door. That's how you cast. Your arm has to be like shutting up. You got to keep it parallel with the water. You got to do this. Okay. By about 2 o'clock, I thought I was going to cry. It was so stressful. And I'm sitting there having this conversation with myself in the skiff. He's like, you're not going to quit. And I'm like, yep, I need a break. You're not going to quit. Yep, I am definitely going to take a break. And this whole time I'm thinking to myself, Melissa, you're a coach. Get out of your head. Get out of your head. Why are you judging yourself so hard? Just let it go. Let it go. Like you're on vacation.
Yeah. It's supposed to be fun.
Oh, it sucked so bad, JJ. All right. So the long and the short of it is, at the end of day 4, everybody had fish on the board except for me.
Oh, that's a bummer.
For me. I had no fish on the board. And I texted my family. We have a family chat. I texted my family with this. Honestly, it was beautifully prosed. Why I hate fly fishing. I'm never going to fly fish again. And I strung together swear words that I didn't even know could go together with such eloquence.
Wow,
that's when I realized my ego was in. That's when I realized I was really invested with my ego.
Sounds like such an amazing trip.
Oh.
So you didn't get what you wanted, which was a fish.
Right.
But you did get an ego check and a lesson in
humility.
Yeah.
Huge piles of humility. It's really interesting because I noticed something. All of these women I should also say that the women that I met, they were all, experienced anglers. And I think I was actually the only, this isn't an excuse. This is just like a description of the group. I think I was the only angler that had not done saltwater fishing yet. And it's hugely different. It is hugely, hugely different. But it's funny because my ego was playing games with me. And I was like, that shouldn't matter. I've pulled in huge steelhead. I've pulled in salmon. I've done this. I've done that. Like, it's funny how your mind plays tricks on you when you start to get discouraged. Because I was hugely discouraged.
Yeah. And
I had a choice to make because by the end of the last day, the guide that I was with was getting phone calls saying, you've got to put her on a fish. Right. And everyone was supporting me, but I was like, stop, just stop. Everybody stop doing that. It made me feel so stupid.
Yeah.
Like, why can't I do this? Everybody else seems to be able to do this. So I've had a lot of reflection time about that trip, so now I've been home for a couple of weeks, and to add insult to injury, the minute I got back, I got COVID.
You had a lot of time to just sit around and think about your experience. Well, first, the thing that strikes me first is not that we shouldn't have dreams about what our vacation should be, or maybe what we want a vacation to be, or what we want an adventure. I wouldn't even say this was a vacation. That was an adventure. But we have these ideas of what those should be before we go, and a lot of times, when you're preparing, when you're packing, when you're getting ready, you build that up to such a unbelievable expectation that if it doesn't go right, it derails the whole thing. I think you and I talked about expectations around vacations before.
Yeah. And you know what else? We've talked about, and it comes right in here too, is we talked about how social media plays with us a little bit. This also came into play a great amount because I had been following Meredith on social media for a really long time.
Oh yeah. So all you see is a daily string of the wins. You don't see the went out 5 days in a row, caught nothing in the rain, and it was torture.
That's right. That's exactly right. And you don't see that, and you do definitely want to pretend like that part doesn't exist. I did. It's so true, because I really played games with myself. I played such mental games with myself, and the whole thing was a mental game. It wasn't a physical. I realized it wasn't a physical game anymore. It was a mental game. And just the amount that people, I don't know, just the amount of people, the way people respond to things, expectations, social media. It was really funny because Meredith is just the absolute greatest person in the world, super down to earth, in person, she was wonderful. But it's funny how much people would even treat her differently because of who she was. For example, she said, hey, everybody for pictures, wear a pop of color, because she always wears fun colors. And whatever she's fishing for, she wears the color of the fish for the pictures.
Oh, that's funny.
And it's beautiful, but you don't think about it, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, if I may indulge you, I would like to read you an excerpt of something that Mitchell said to me when I was at my lowest point.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
Everybody, this is honestly, if you can have a kid like this, you're the luckiest person in the world. He sent me this as a separate message just to me. He said, fishing is hard. The people that make it look easy only do so because they fish a lot. For every successful trip, there are handfuls of unsuccessful ones that you never hear about because people only share their wins. I'm very proud of you for putting yourself in a fishing environment you aren't used to and trying something new. You learned a lot and you still are going to have stories to share, and you even got to fish with a serious fishing legend. Fly fishing is way tougher than spin fishing, and I admire how you didn't give up. Maybe we just need to find some less difficult opportunities to build your confidence up. That's what he wrote.
Wow, what a nice message. That kid is awesome.
What a nice, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the ego plays tricks on your mind, and even me as a coach, right? Talking about this stuff all the time, I got so waylaid by my expectations, and then the reality of what happened. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's interesting. We talk about this. I mean, we talk about this every week. You're in conversations every day.
Yeah.
And the idea that like you said, you're in it, and you got so far in without realizing how bad it was getting for you until maybe day 3 or 4.
Right.
And just you kind of went deeper and deeper in that hole.
Despair. It got to a point where I almost felt like despair. I just wanted to pack up my stuff and go. I mean, I felt like a little kid. I felt like a little kid getting picked last for the kickball team. That's what it felt like. So anyway, I just thought that it was a really interesting, so I did make some real distinct decisions while I was there, because every night we were all together with everyone, and everyone was sharing all their stories and explaining how great everything was. And then they'd all kind of look at me.
Sitting there quietly.
I'm sitting there quietly drinking a beer or whatever.
Crying in your beer.
Crying in my beer.
This beer is so watered down with my tears.
I don't want to drink. I don't want to eat. I just want to go to bed by myself with the door shut. But I decided to be really optimistic, and not falsely, but I decided to just embrace everything that I experienced on that trip. Mm-hmm. And I realized I really got to meet some amazing people, and I learned a bunch.
When did you decide that? Did you decide that after you got back?
Nope. I actually decided it while I was there. And I hadn't really pieced together the one guide that was really hard on me. That did leave a mark. And I actually really learned some things in there too, because he was a perfectionist and he's a really good angler and he's so good at what he does. And I really liked him. I really, really liked his personality. I really liked him. And yet his coaching style was very hard on me. And it wasn't the kind of style that was good for me. But even in the moment when you're really upset, you don't really realize that. Mm-hmm. So even in that time, I thought, you know what, that wasn't my style. It's okay. I'm going to try to let that go as much as I can right now. I know I'm going to revisit this later because I've got a lot of feelings about it. But right now, I'm going to just be in this present moment with these people. Yeah. And I made I'm actually already taking another fishing trip with one of the women on the group that I just love. She sent me a message. She's like, hey, let's go do this. And I was like, yeah, let's. So we're doing it in February.
Cool.
Yeah. So I guess it was like in the moment I had to make these choices, but wow, was it ever a fight head over heart? It was a huge battle for me.
So like what would you do? Like, have you thought about like what would you do next time if you're in a similar situation to like get yourself maybe like stay more centered more often?
Yeah.
And maybe not get so derailed during the trip.
Well, you kind of said something a few minutes ago about expectation. And I think that's probably the first thing is I would not have such a high expectation, even though I was saying I only wanted to catch one fish. Mm-hmm. Like I thought that was being low expectation, but it wasn't a very realistic expectation because I'd never done that kind of fishing before.
Yeah.
I mean, in the wind, when you're standing on a flat boat in shallow water, you get tossed around. Mm-hmm. So to actually have to stand with your feet planted and you're wearing snow pants and big coats and hats, just getting used to the feeling of being on the front of a boat like that is really something to get used to.
Yeah. So kind of in any sort of adventure, like we just tend to think about, we can map like our current experience onto that adventure. But it's so easy to just forget about all of the other things that might be happening. Yeah. Right. Like those other things about the environment that you haven't experienced.
Right. And I just took all that for granted.
So you just like the expectations, just like the good part of the whole experience, and you forget to put the expectation of the bad parts.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I think just being more open, like another thing that I really learned, and I think this applies to a lot of things, not just fishing, but when you fish for different species, every species fishes differently. Everything can be very different. So even though there's all this commonality, I have to have a license, I have to have a rod, I have to have certain kind of bait, I have to have these things. Every single fish species is different. So until you've done it, you don't know.
Your success of getting sunfish, like little sunnies out of the lake in Brainerd is not mapping to this experience.
Right. Exactly. Just a little different. Bamboo poles, different. So I don't know.
So there's that expectation thing. But then also, like, when you were at your sort of height of frustration, like, I just imagine you're standing out there on the bow.
Yeah.
There's this guy yelling at you. You can't, at some point, you're probably just so physically fatigued, you can barely cast the rod.
Exactly right.
Like how, like that moment for you.
Yeah. Awful.
This must have felt like I'm done.
I thought I was going to cry. And I'm just not a crier, as you know. And I wish I was, because I think it'd probably be more healthy. But I was so upset that I couldn't even think straight. I was like, you know, and the thing with fly fishing is it is pretty technical. You got to learn a lot of stuff. And if you get in your head, you can't do any of it right.
Yeah,
nothing.
Right. It's a lot like so many sports. It's like you have to not think to be good at it.
Exactly.
So it's got to be all muscle memory kind of stuff. Well,
right.
But the interesting thing too is like in those situations, like you want to quit.
Yeah.
But there's this core value and maybe external, like core value that's like maybe in your core value and other people's values kind of being thrust upon you. Like, hey, don't quit. We're not a quitter. We're going to get through it.
Exactly.
Right? And so you've got these two contrasting emotions.
Oh, and it was very conflicting.
Sometimes, like, do we do a podcast on this? Sometimes we should just quit. Like, just my opinion on things. Sometimes you actually should just quit sooner than you think. Maybe not in this scenario. But it is interesting how when you start bringing some of those values about what you should do, or maybe the kind of person you want to be, or how you should act, really adds so much more stress to a situation.
It absolutely was incredibly stressful. And here's the other thing I noticed, you know, just me being misobservational. When I could get out of my own head for a moment, I observed how different people respond to people that are in stress. Different people respond to it differently. There were some women on that trip who tried to bring themselves to my level. Oh yeah, I haven't done much of that either. When they had, but they were just trying to say whatever they could to try to make me feel better. Some people kind of avoided me.
Want to be part, like connect with you by being shared experience. Right?
Yes, exactly. Some didn't know what to do, so they kind of tried to leave me alone until they gauged my own response to it, which was interesting too. And I think we do that as humans. Like if somebody's in a real bad mood, oftentimes we will make a decision to just not be near that person, right? Because we don't want to deal with it. So there were people that were observing me like that. And I really appreciated something Meredith said afterwards. She said, you know what? I loved your attitude this whole trip. She said, you taught a lot of people a lot of things this week. And I thought, really nice. Oh, that was such a kind thing for her to say. I mean, here she is, this world record holder, and she's watching me just look like I'm making spaghetti in the sky, right? But I just appreciated her thought and just appreciated her intentionality on saying something like that. So anyway, it's a good reminder.
Wow.
Ego is real. Ego is real. And I don't know, in order to really learn well, we just have to be able to set our ego aside, or even if it rages its ugly head, at least give it its time and then come right back to being open to learn. You know, I guess I really did learn that.
What a good lesson. I mean, a lot of the best lessons that we get are in these times where things are not so great.
Right.
And look at that. You're signing yourself up for another go at it.
Oh, okay. I wasn't going to say this.
Actually, now this flips to like a whole different issue, which is like you're going to do this until you actually catch a huge fish.
Oh God, why do you have to know me so well? I already booked another trip there. I hate to say it. And you know what else I did? It just arrived while we were talking. I ordered a inside practice casting rod that's with yarn. It's made out of, it's a line, or it's a 4-foot fishing rod with a piece of yarn.
Okay, so who's not driven by ego? I didn't catch a fish, so now I'm buying and booking more trips so I can catch a fish.
Freak, super freak. Hey, at least
that's
all
right.
Human.
Nothing wrong with being a little competitive. All right. Well, cool. Well, thanks for sharing. I'm definitely not going to ask you how your vacation, your like adventure goes again, because
you wait till I bring it up. You're gonna wait till I bring it up.
The next one will be a fishing story of complete success.
I'd like to end this with Men Provisions is this great fly fishing store in South Minneapolis, and he has these great stickers. I think I have like 40, and the sticker says, "Fly fishing is hard. Think twice."
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.